And we're live. Aussie hat and all, we are live without the crooked Christmas tree in the background. We'll see how many people we can get here on this unplanned live stream, which I would much rather bring people the videos we've been bringing them for the past 4 years. Unfortunately, as you know, Carolyn, we've had our mishaps when it comes to current events, all of the current events that have taken place over the past several months. But those of you who are gathering, welcome. It's good to see that people are beginning to join us here on this festive occasion. Wait a minute, we're not festive any longer. Christmas is over. Yeah, this was a total unplanned kind of shindig. Carol and I were supposed to be in Pennsylvania this week, and unfortunately, we're not in Pennsylvania. You were supposed to get a video about the Alleghenies in Pennsylvania, but it didn't happen. And the reason why it didn't happen is because of, well, life. And apparently a party got too wild in DC. I'm not sure, exactly where everybody stands on that, but apparently there were a lot of people not standing and stuff. So yeah. So there's been some crazy news over the past few days. I don't know if you've been keeping up. I'd like to meet some people who haven't kept up with what's going on the news over the past several days. I'd like to meet people who don't know what's going on. Hello, Jessica Harris. It's good to meet you today, I should say, or tonight, whatever it is. You guys know me. My name is Bill Marion, and this is A Nose for Life. Unfortunately, again, we're not on the road doing our thing, and I apologize for that. But it's a good time to talk about some stuff that we really needed to talk about before the year ended. I mean, this wasn't supposed to be my first video. In other words, it wasn't supposed to be a live stream tonight. But sometimes life and current events prevent us from doing what we'd rather be doing. But here it goes. Here's the topic for tonight. If social media disappeared, would you miss it? And so let's quickly define social media to get started. Social media are interactive, digitally meditated. Listen, I'm already messing up my script here. Mediated technologies that facilitate the creation or sharing, exchange of information, ideas, career interests, and other forms of expression via virtual communities and networks. User-generated content. Users have a profile to interact with that content, and the social media providers make those connections, connecting you to what you might be interested in. And from there, it just blossoms into whatever. Now, that definition isn't really great, and I'm not an expert in social media because it's a lot more difficult to define social media because it varies. And while it's not really what this talk is about, let me just add this, that YouTube is a social media platform, in case you didn't know that already. But it's complicated because it's not really like Twitter. It's not really like Facebook, but yet Facebook competes with YouTube, and Facebook definitely competes with Twitter. And you could say that YouTube competes with Facebook and Twitter. It's complicated. The point is that we're not just talking about Twitter. We're not just talking about Facebook. We're talking about social media in general, and asking the question, would you really miss it if it were just to disappear one day? And I want to start this by just reading this general statement before I even say anything else. YouTube has been good to me. To my knowledge, I've been given a fair chance on this channel, on this platform. And to my knowledge, when I make decent videos, my videos get as many views as they deserve. And I never have felt cheated. I don't think my videos are being hidden. And if they are hidden, I can't imagine why, because I've always played by the rules. I want my channel to grow a little faster like everybody else. But I've always felt that that's my responsibility, and it's not YouTube's responsibility to help my channel grow. The algorithm wants me to make a certain kind of video, 10 facts videos. That's what the algorithm would say, that if I make those, I would have a heck of a lot more subscribers and a heck of a lot more thumbs up and a heck of a lot more money at the end of the month. But that's not what I want to do all the time. So I make a decision to make the kind of videos I make because those are the kind of videos I want to make, and I play by the rules. So the bottom line is why would I want to make a video talking about the end of social media if social media has kind of been good to me, in my opinion? I mean, for an egg-shaped middle-aged man, I don't think social media has been bad to me at all. It's been pretty good to me. When YouTube was first exploding, I'll never forget this, because I was considering making a channel. I wanted to start a channel. I thought, hey, I'm going to try this. And when I started making videos, that was the first ad apocalypse during the election in 2016. And I was telling a lot of my friends, family, and so on. And yes, this is a modified I told you so, in case you're wondering. It is. It's got to be. I kept saying this thing with social media is bad because they're talking about fake news. And this is going to get really complicated over the next several years because conservatives, Republicans have pushed legislation that have made this situation worse. And of course, right now in the climate that we're in the situation, the conservatives are the ones that are griping the most right now about the censorship, but they created this atmosphere. And I'm not going to get into all that tonight, only to say that censorship is going to be something we're all going to be dealing with. And so I'm wondering what you guys think about it. I noticed a lot of people have already bailed here in the room. They're like, I don't want to talk about this tonight. But it's the truth that if social media isn't as social, it will devour itself. In other words, if you don't have diverse opinions on social media, if you don't have a variety of opinions, a variety of people contributing to the conversation, it just folds up on itself. It becomes boring. It just becomes an echo chamber, kind of like my Facebook page. That's why I hate going to Facebook anymore, because you get a lot of people that have similar opinions to yourself, and you just scream those opinions out at each other all the time. So what do we do in a situation where this could be the beginning of the end of the social media revolution? People are worried about Washington and what's taking place there. I'm more worried about social media, because at the end of the day, they're basically shooting themselves in the foot. So let's read a couple of comments already. Robert Posey says, I remember Shindig. It was good. I'm not sure if you're talking about the dance show or if there was an app that I'm not familiar with called Shindig. Billy says, it's 2021. All of our problems are over and COVID has disappeared. I even heard dogs and cats are getting along now. Jessica Harris says, I like sharing my life with people, but no, I wouldn't miss it. It's very depressing sometimes. And that's why I made this video. Jessica, I made this video. That's the second greatest comment that you've made. I'll tell you your other one later when you get back to church there. I'll tell you another one that you made recently that I thought that was good. It's good stuff. But you're right. It's depressing. Sometimes it's better just to turn the junk off. And that includes YouTube for that matter. Toby at Reclaim Your Life says, social media is marketing, nothing more. Yeah. Is it? I mean, because I would like to think I'm doing something more besides marketing on this channel. And we've already said, you've got to admit that YouTube is social media. I'd like to think I'm creating something for like George Lucas. Okay, maybe not like George Lucas. Not yet. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of, you're marketing what you enjoy, maybe, because your channel, you got a great channel. You guys are talking about, getting people to run, getting people to do your things and all this stuff, getting people out involved in nature, very similar to ours, but it's more conversations. Great channel, by the way. You guys need to check it out. It's called Reclaim Your Life. Subscribe over there. And Toby's, I wouldn't say that what your channel is marketing at all, other than marketing a better lifestyle. So, but I know where you're coming from. Big Frog Barbecue. Hey, Mr. Bill. Hello, Mr. Big Frog Barbecue. Billy says, nah, I'm not that social anyway. No, you're not, Billy. I can speak that. Billy says, I prefer the Bat Cave. Then somebody is, oh my, Montu 2346. All right. Oh my. Yes. Oh my. Welcome. Robert Posey says, I'm definitely not social. People hate me. I don't think so, Robert. Big Frog Barbecue says 10 facts about, here we go. I thought the new year was going to change the Dutch oven Opryland combination. Obviously it is not. Billy says 10 facts why social media sucks. You know what? That's not a bad idea for video. Billy says, as Sheldon would say, I informed you thusly. Robert Posey says, I'm always naked when I'm on. Says the great social media purge. I think they made a few movies about that. 10 facts about abandoning the Dutch oven. I'm never going to hear the end of this. Hey, let's keep it lively, though. I'm glad you guys are in here tonight. Be sure to hit your thumbs up button, by the way, while you're in here. Annabelle Porter is in the house. Good to see Annabelle tonight. Welcome. So, yeah, we're talking about social media. It occurred to me, I guess, 3 or 4 months ago, and I was going to make a video then. I decided not to. I put it off, and I put it off, and I put it off. Because I wanted to make a video about how, technically, according to the rules right now, I could be released from this platform for any good reason. In other words, technically, according to the rules, they could suspend my channel, they could get rid of me, and they really don't have to have a reason. If you read the terms of service, I mean, the terms of service, that's kind of how it works. You can have a channel, and they can take it from you. They don't really have to have a reason. You may not like that, but it's a fact. And that's something that bothers me, but at the same time, conservatives are who helped put that legislation in play. And so we're paying for it now. Robert Posey says, be good and be safe. Robert, you as well. Billy says, I need to know the joke about the Dutch oven. I used to make cobblers in a Dutch oven. I think I'm going to rename this channel the Dutch Oven Opryland channel, actually, Billy. Honestly, the origins of the joke, I am still not clear. I just know that it continues to surface again and again, and at this point, it's just hysterical, one way or the other. So yeah, so Jessica has said already. She said, "Look, I can live without social media." And because I think about pleasant times before, I think Carol and I were on Facebook, what, 2007, 2008 ish, 2007 or 2008. And Facebook has to be responsible for, I want to say 30 or 40% of the conflict of the first 5 years on Facebook. Just silly stuff, just family junk, where somebody says something or whatever, somebody makes you mad, somebody makes a comment, passive aggressive comments. And I can't tell you how many times that I've signed off of Facebook and just been absolutely irate at something stupid somebody posts. Or you get the paranoid thing going on. I don't know if you guys probably never do this, but I do, where you get the paranoid thing going on and you think, oh my God, oh my goodness, somebody is saying something and they're meaning that towards me, and they probably don't mean it towards anybody. They're just talking. Or how many times that's happened where you've posted something and somebody thinks you're throwing that at them and you weren't throwing that at anybody, you were just talking. Big Frog says he blames Strong Adventure for the Opryland / Dutch oven. We'll blame him because I don't see him in here yet. So we'll blame him till he gets here. Then we'll find somebody else. Juan Thomas is in the house. Says glad to see y'all. And O'Brien is back in Harrisonburg. Whoop, whoop. Good to see you. I got to go check out your channel. I saw an unboxing over there on O'Brien's channel. He was unboxing some, I think, headphones or something. I can't remember. Billy says my needs his own channel. He could be a YouTube star. I agree. And here's the thing is that social media is, in case you're not keeping up with the news, social media is the topic right now, because in case you haven't heard, I mean, I can't imagine how you could have missed this in the news. A few important people have been banned from social media. Let me see. I'm trying to think of who it was. Who was banned from social media? What was his name again? He was banned. What was his name? Oh yeah, the President of the United States. Banned from Twitter. And it doesn't matter where you stand on this. So don't even assume that you think you know where I'm going to go with this. Trust me, I don't know where I'm going with this. But seriously, I'm not trying to go on a rant about who should and shouldn't be and who did this and why and all that. This isn't one of those channels. But it's just a weird time that we're in right now, where everybody I have a microphone right now. You're listening to it. I hope it's doing well. I hope you're hearing me loud and clear. 5 by 5, as we used to say. But the President of the United States, because a company said so, because of a CEO said, you don't have a microphone on this platform anymore. He doesn't. And other platforms that were giving the president a microphone, they deplatformed the platform. That's weird. And it's something that if you're younger than me, let's say you're a college kid, which we're always thankful to have the 1 or 2 or 3 college kids that are with us on this channel, because this channel, for the most part, is people 35 with arthritis and older. So we're always thankful to have anybody who doesn't know the pains of arthritis. So it's just a kind of a weird time, because in my lifetime, I never thought I would see companies who would actually deplatform the president. And I know that I know the comeback to that and everything. It's just an very odd situation. And so the lesson to be learned here is that if you can deplatform the president and there's nothing anybody can do about it, well, then you can deplatform Bill Marion and anybody else with a channel. You can just take their information away from them. Adventures of Moonman says, hey, how's it going? Hey, Adventures of Moonman, how's it going with you? Welcome to the channel. We're talking about social media. Would you miss it? I go back to 2007 or something when Carol and I got on Facebook, and I start thinking, I think I would be just fine without social media. I would miss making videos. Maybe I'd have to find a different way to exercise that creative side of my life or whatever, but I would make it. I would be just fine. Younger people, though, they've learned to live life. They've learned social skills around social media. And people our age, we can say whatever we want to about that, but let's look at the reality. That's how they've grown up. And if you've grown up that way, it's a lot harder to say, okay, we're going to get rid of social media in our life now. Because, man, that's how you make connections. That's how you stay in touch. It's a different world. It's a much different world. I can honestly say, I can see that this right here, this moment in time, though, is a moment where probably social media is going to take a turn. I think we've seen the best days of social media. That's all I'm saying. Adventures of Moonman says, I would miss YouTube and maybe Instagram to an extent, but not Facebook. I completely the Instagram. I'm not on. Well, we are. Our church is on Instagram, but I don't do anything on Instagram. Dennis, good to see you, Dennis Jackson. I don't do anything on Facebook or excuse me, I don't do anything on Instagram, but I do on Facebook. But I loathe the interaction on Facebook anymore because those are your friends, family, and relatives. So let me give just a few things that's happened this week and why I really felt the need to come on here. I got to read this from Big Frog Barbecue says, a Nose for Life TV show on Discovery Channel. Man, let's agree together in prayer because I would love that. I'm not kidding you because to me that fits who Carol and I are so much better sometimes than YouTube. That type of that type of format. Look, Bryn G just came in and said, I grew up with a landline at home and a phone booth on every corner. I would survive without any social media. Me too. I mean, that's how we all grew up. I think cell phones came in when I was when my firstborn was born. That was when everybody started having a cell phone. And I lived in Barberville then, where Dennis Jackson lives. I lived down in Barberville, and it really depended on what side of 25E you were on as to whether or not it got signal. I don't know if it's still like that in Barberville or not, but that's how it was back then. It was rough times, very rough times, the mid 90s there. So yeah, it was crazy. But let me tell you some things that happened. I got a phone call from one of our members, and lovely lady, black lady at our church, and she called and she said, Pastor Bill, she said, I am sure. She left this on my voicemail. I had to call her back because I was laughing hysterically. She said, were you down there in Washington, D.C. when all that was going on? She goes, I just knew I saw you on there on that march. I laughed hysterically, and I called her back, and I said, Barbara, I said, that's a long walk from where the speech was up to the Capitol building. If you've never been to D.C., that is a long walk where the speech was going on and everybody took off towards the Capitol. And it's uphill. It's uphill. There's an incline right there. And there's not that many porta potties. And I'm 47 years old. Do you know I need a porta potty like every so many blocks these days? You know, it's like every 85 steps. I'm like, I got to pee. We got to find a porta potty. I used to get, Carol and I would go on vacation, but man, I'd look at her and say, man, you got to pee all the time. And now it's me. I'm the one going, honey, I need this rust area right here. You need to pull over. I can't imagine me going that far without having to stop 15 times. I can't imagine scaling the wall. I think I would have gotten out of breath. Billy and I, one of the people here in the chat room, we went to a DC to a prayer rally up there, and we walked around. But I'm sure. Here he is. Billy says I can attest that Pastor wasn't at the Capitol building because I was tracking him. No, you weren't, Billy. But seriously, when Billy and I went to DC for the prayer meeting, this was back in October, right? I think it was October. I was out of breath. We were on the art. Had all these beautiful art things set up all over the downtown area. And then after the prayer meeting, which was awesome, we went up there and was just walking around. And I was out of breath. I just sat down. We watched a squirrel, and we were doing all this, just hanging out or whatever. But the energy that had to take to do all of that, my goodness, you'd have to be in shape. And they say most Trump supporters are like 50 and older. I'm like, they're a better in shape 50 than me. That's all I'm going to say. Oh, my goodness. Dennis Jackson talking about the cell phone service in Barberville, Kentucky says, yep, still almost like that. Billy says he remembers the phone booth. He remembers long distance chargers. Adventures of Moonman says, I'm a young person still, but even I remember that cell phones and the internet was so tame and undeveloped compared to today. It happened so quick. And I'm the last generation to play outside. You probably are. The thing about it is we used to make our kids go outside and play. We lived in the woods, lived in the forest. Matter of fact, my earlier videos, you can see where we lived. We lived in the middle of nowhere. We really did. We loved it. And, of course, God sent us here to this part of Virginia. We love it, too. But as far as where we actually lived, we love our apartment now. But our home down there in Tennessee was in the middle of the forest. We loved it, surrounded by acreage that belonged to the family. So, that was good times. But we used to make our kids go outside. I mean, we did. And my son, I'd pull up to the house. My son would be practicing throwing a hatchet. That was that. We were country. That's how we rolled, man. Billy says, I can attest that Pastor wasn't at the Capitol building. Yeah, I've read that already. Dennis Jackson says, try taking a trip at 65. Dennis, I can't imagine. I always forget that you're a few years older than me, but yeah, I can't imagine, Dennis. That's the truth. Because it's funny. It's a traveling channel. We get out, we have a lot of fun, and we get more than anything. And part of the reason why I think God why I thank God all the time for this channel is it gives us a reason or a way to recoup some of the finances of us spending time together in nature, which is Carolyn. Our first dates were in the mountains. When we first met, I was basically, hey, I think you're beautiful. Let's go to the mountains. We met in the mountains. So it's just, we love traveling in the mountains. And so this gives us a great opportunity to do that. But we didn't have to experience, they didn't have Facebook when we were dating, did they? I don't think. No. Yeah, because you still had instant messaging. You still had AOL instant messaging. Remember that? Little icons. Some people had the Shania Twain icon. Remember that? Nobody? Billy says, hey, that's my story, and I'll tell it like I want to. Yeah, tell them how I was slugging it over the hills of D.C. I was, man. I broke out in a sweat. Mark, good to see Mark. Had a great, awesome post from him and I won't share the details, Mark, but Mark sent me an email after service. I think it was either this past Sunday or the Sunday. It was this past Sunday. And needed to hear it, Mark, because I tell you, it's hard to preach a message about how our focus is on God and not sit and spend 2 hours on current events on Sunday mornings because their hearts are hurting. So I'm so thankful for that message that you sent me. That made me feel like $1 million. My shipmates and I, unfortunately, he says, a long time ago when I was in the Coast Guard, I wore myself out climbing up Lincoln's lap at the memorial. Needless to say, there was big trouble. My shipmates and I fortunately escaped. DJ is in the house. Good to see you. Mark, you got to be careful. You got to be careful because now, and again, it's one of those things where we've kind of brought this on ourselves when it comes to what was considered a prank then. And it's just something that's funny then is definitely different now. Good to see you, DJ. Adventures in Moon Man. I love that screen name. Adventures in Moon Man. Of Moon Man. Yeah, in Moon Man would be gross. Yeah, not in, but of. It's still a preposition nonetheless. He says, I grew up playing Army with BB guns and catching frogs in the creek. Today, most would rather be on their iPad. Parents give kids electronics instead of parenting when they whine. I got to admit, my son caught the best of both worlds. My daughters did too. I'm proud of all three of my kids. I've said this in videos before. And yes, it's shamelessly showing kid love to the whole world. You know how much I love my kids, but I don't care. Y'all can send me pictures. You can post pictures of your family on our Facebook wall if you want to. We'll these days that's kind of dangerous, but I'm just saying, hey man, nothing like somebody's loving their family. But we taught our kids to appreciate the outdoors, and because of that, Anna moved to Colorado. It was only for 6 months. She moved back. She's married. Her and Oz got married. She's expecting. She's getting round too, y'all. It's hilarious. But she went to Colorado. She loved the mountains. Crystal she was at ETSU. She's taking a semester off, and she stayed in Johnson City. She loves the mountains, Johnson City, Tennessee. And of course, Nathan. I don't know. Nathan is somewhere always between Virginia and where he lives there in Saudi Daisy because his girlfriend lives in Virginia. And so he's always between Virginia and Saudi Daisy, Tennessee, but all of them, they love the mountains. So yeah, Harold Denton says, man, you are ancient being in your 60s. Heck, I'm 56 and I even struggle to walk any long distance. Been dealing with blood clots in my lower right leg since March of 2017. I am so sorry to hear that. I've not had the deep vein thrombitis, but I do have the varicose veins, so they'll get big and hot, and they get real big and they get real hot, and I have to wrap them and all this junk. That's the stuff you don't see on our channel most of the time when I'm going. Just remember, when I'm going hiking, I've usually got like my leg wrapped up and stuff to keep everything in. Got like a girdle around my belly. No, I'm kidding. I don't. Billy says, I'm a grown man and I still love playing Army. Yes, he does. I'm not going to say anything else to that. Might get Billy in trouble. Harold Denton says, thankfully, there was no internet back in the 70s and 80s. I would have gotten expelled from school several times for pulling pranks on classmates. I can't imagine. I told my kids this. I can't imagine what life is like now for high school kids and junior high school kids. It was hard enough when I had to go through it. It's hard enough when you guys had to go through it. And for those of you who went through high school, if some of our college kids are still on here, I know it has to be hard for you guys now. I can't imagine it, which is, again, that's what started this whole video tonight is, would you even miss social media? Would you miss it? And I don't know that a lot of even our young people, my son's not on Facebook. Like every now and then he'll go on Facebook, but not usually. I think his is, what's his? It's not Instagram. It's the other one. TikTok or something.
Yes.
One of those. I don't know. Adventures of Boonman says, I lived in Chattanooga metro area my whole life, and I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. I do enjoy seeing new places and travel often. However, that's our thing. That's what we love. Mark has been struggling with his lungs as well as he's had back surgery. And he's had issues there, which you've shared before. Harold also said Johnson City's beautiful area. Dad grew up behind the ETSU campus. We know where that's at. Well, Harold, Dad grew up at ETSU. That was your dad off Cherokee Road. Know where that's at. And the Cherokee National Forest starts right behind the ETSU campus. Oh, love that area. Juan Thomas says, we would only miss you two on here. That's sweet of you, Juan. And you know what? And here's some reality. There is a sense of, especially on a small channel like this. And believe it or not, I have a few channels that, it's funny. I've been on here long enough as a creator to have kind of made some friends with creators as they were coming up. They had product that's more appealing or whatever the case is. Their content's more appealing and their channel got a lot bigger, a lot faster, but they'll still talk. They'll still reach out and we'll talk about, compare stories or whatever here in the YouTube world. You do build kind of a relationship with people in the sense that I feel like I've known Juan forever. I feel like I've known him forever. It's like, I feel like I've known Juan for like 3 or 4 years now. And we talk and, you start building. I love that part of social media. And I bet you $1 million, you don't have to admit this, Juan, but I bet $1 million Juan doesn't agree with everything I've said. Juan hasn't liked every video. But after a while, when you build a relationship with people, after a while, the relationship is what kind of brings everything together. I think social media is like anything else. It's a tool. But life's about, as far as with people, life's about relationships. It's not just about clicking a like button or a share button. That's not what it's all about. That's never what I wanted this channel to be about. Right when I was going to organize some type of get together in 2020, that was the goal, man. I said, this is the year in 2020 where we're going to have a get together, Nose for Life get together. I even had the place. It was going to be on the Blue Ridge Parkway. Imagine that. Here in Virginia at the lodge. I can't think of it now, but it's the lodge that's the first lodge, not the second lodge in Virginia. I cannot think of the name of it. It's at Sharp Top Mountain. Peaks of Otter.
Yes.
Just like I was thinking. Peaks of Otter. And it's going to be minimal cost, 2 nights. Let's just get together and hang out. No, nothing formal. Get together, go hiking, fishing, and just hang out and talk. And then, of course, y'all know how 2020 worked. Mark says, I miss social media. How else would I have ever bumped into your awesome channel? Good point, Mark. We're like family. No. Like our family. Right. Billy says, except maybe Miss Pastor Bill, the Bigfoot Hunter show. That would be so fun to start a satire show. I've thought about that too, Billy, spinning off a channel and having satire, making videos that are just satire of things like that. UFO hunters, Bigfoot hunter, and just enjoying myself and not worrying about what other people would think or say, just enjoying the silliness of it. But at the same time, this is so funny. You would never think that I would not want to offend Bigfoot enthusiasts, but I've got some friends, close friends through social media who I've worked with in real life who are Bigfoot enthusiasts. That's kind of their genre. And you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, but other people don't think that way, do they? Most people don't. They're like, hey, how can I get clicks? And so they really don't care whose feelings they hurt. That's what this industry is kind of all built around, is hit that like button, share, all that kind of stuff. And then before you know it, you're making content to fuel the algorithm. And I always promised myself that I wasn't going to be a slave to the algorithm, and I haven't been yet, thank God. Juan Thomas says, I think we agree about 99% of things, Mr. Bill. I used to live and walk in the mountains in Prescott. Oh, I wish I was there too, man. We love out west. I've said that many times. Juan, I'll say it again. Adventures of Moonman. I had an experience years ago that makes me believe in Bigfoot. I'll leave it at that. Adventures of Moonman, you need to be like inboxing me, and we need to make a video about this. Like inbox me, Bill Marion Live. We're on Facebook at Bill Marion Live. Send me an inbox. I don't care to give out my email on here. Put my email address, billmarion5@gmail.com. Yeah, and when I put this email address on there, if you spam me, I'm just not going to be able to read your thing. But make sure that, in other words, if somebody else, I know you wouldn't, but if you'll put in the message something like Moonman story or something like that, and then we can do something to where We'll tell your story. We'll fictionalize it if you want us to, change names and all that stuff. But that makes for great videos. It really does. It gives me something to direct, and it's just a great moment. Harold Denton says you are living now in Bigfoot territory. Harold Denton says. Daniel, is it Benoit? Benoit, how do you say that word?
Benoit.
What's that?
I would think it's Benoit.
Is it Benoit? Runs East Coast Bigfoot Research Organization out of the Harrisonburg area. You know what, Harold, you said that last time, which is interesting. I really do need to reach out to him. And the reason why is because Matt Sieber, who comes in here all the time and chats with us, he runs East Tennessee Bigfoot, which is a pretty big organization down in Tennessee. And so that would, that's just kind of cool. It'd be a connection on both ends of the Great Valley. Kind of cool. Just to talk about it. I find it fascinating, just like I find UFO stories fascinating and a lot of fun. By the way, I don't know if you heard, but the CIA just did a huge dump. I didn't tell you this, Carolyn. The CIA just released thousands of documents in old files, made it very difficult to comb through the files. I tried to download a few today, and I don't have the right stuff. Then I got to download 50 other things to download the files, but they're doing a huge dump. Not taking a dump, very different. They released a whole lot of stuff about UFOs. So yeah, so social media. Where would we be without it? When Facebook first started, I loved it. It was great. My Aunt Kim. If I told you that my Aunt Kim, we were up there for Christmas that year. It was 2005. It was our first Christmas in Michigan together. And then we had the kids and all that stuff. And Kim was talking about Facebook then. So I always give her the credit of telling me about Facebook. And then within a couple of years, we had the church down in Chattanooga on Facebook, or at least our group was. And within a few years, it was saturated. Everybody was Facebooking out. Everybody was coming up with their Facebook names. And it's really funny because Carol and I have the exact same. We've not changed profiles. We've not done, it's the exact same. Bill and Carolyn on Facebook. I think we manage 12 pages total now because the church's pages and everything else. But when it comes to day-to-day, what I call day-to-day Facebook operations, sometimes I get annoyed with people who are passive-aggressive, who they'll post something to try to get your attention. And when it's like, man, just call me and don't do that for me don't do that to get my attention. Just call me and get my attention because I'm easy, man. you don't have to be passive-aggressive. And then there's the times, the first 5, 6, maybe even 7 years that I was on Facebook where I was passive-aggressive, where I would try to make my point with vague statements on Facebook. Do you know these people? The people that say things like, here you go. The people that say, I'm leaving Facebook for a while. I just can't take this anymore. I just can't do it. And then everybody comes in behind him. No, don't leave. Don't leave. One time I desperately wanted to add in their comments. I wanted to go, bye. It's a friend of mine too, but I just went, bye. It's like, why you got to announce to the world? Just disappear. It's Facebook. It's okay. And then the people that keep giving out their password, and then they get hacked, which knowing me will get hacked after I'm saying this, but they'll see something that says open this attachment, and you're like, by now everybody should know, don't open anything on Facebook. Don't open anything. Or the people that send out the little things all the time.
The chain mail.
That's another thing. Let's talk about this real quick. O'Brien said, bye, Felicia. O'Brien, I don't know if you've seen our Bye, Felicia movie that we made. It's one of our first videos, it was just me experimenting. You need to watch it if you haven't. The whole thing was called Bye, Felicia. But this is another thing is I got sent a link to this YouTube channel. And I'm trying to code this because I'm hoping against hope that this live I can't talk tonight, that this live stream won't be demonetized. But it's probably wishful thinking. Okay. Nevertheless, I get this link from not just one person, but several people. And it also came up in my Facebook feed by a few people about this guy, and I'm not going to mention his name, but basically he's saying that, I don't even know how to word this, but basically, if you are pro-Trump, that it's not over. That some things are going to happen at the last minute and Trump will be sworn in. This dude and his followers, I'm talking about there's over 1 million of them. And listen, I'm not trying to be anti or pro anything, or don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I guess I started thinking, I probably could have made a lot more money faking UFO videos. I'm just saying I could have made a lot more money because people believe stuff sometimes that I go, are you serious? And hear me out on this, because if what this guy is saying is true, you don't want that. No matter how much you love whoever, whatever candidate you love the most, no matter how much you love them, you would not want them to become president that way. That would be bad. And you can say, well, the alternative is bad. Well, the alternative is still unknown. But what is known is what would happen if he became president, whoever, in a way that is not founded in the Constitution. And so that is just I worry about people sometimes. And so when I think about social media, I think it's not that social media, I think itself is evil. I think it's just a reflection of people. Is that too deep? Is that too much? Look, we were supposed to be in Pennsylvania today. What do you want me to say? We were supposed to be in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry. It got deep. Juan Thomas says, Mr. Bill, my Dutch oven. You know the one. Oh, I need to order a bunch of those and have a giveaway. Oh, I want to do it so bad. Bye, Felicia was the bestest ever. I cannot believe people actually still watch that. Because it wasn't really, I think I didn't even mean to monetize that. I didn't even mean to put it on the channel. It was supposed to be ridiculous, and I was just experimenting. I did come across a 48-minute video. It was the first video I ever made. And for those of you who have tried to edit videos, maybe O'Brien or somebody else, you'll appreciate this. I knew absolutely nothing about editing. This was in 2014. And I made an entire video with our family pictures. And remember, I was using other people's footage on Facebook to help out my video. It was about our Disney trip, and I was going to surprise the kids by telling them we were going back the next year because something happened where we could go back the next year. So it was like 6 months after we got back from Disney World, I made this 48-minute video. And then when they got back, I was going to make, after the 6 months, they were going to watch this, and we were going to tell them we're going again 6 months later. It's very tear-jerking. It was when Let It Go was out, and whatever that movie's called, Frozen. The soundtrack to it's great, but I used PowerPoint to make that presentation. It's awful. Trust me, the whole thing is awful. I mean, it's got video in it and everything, but it's terrible. But I remember now that was the video that made me want to start making, and I found it. I actually saved it to Google, and I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put that out for anybody to watch it, not even worry about monetization and copyright and all that stuff. Just throw it out there and not have it monetized. And then I can't. And I can explain why some of the time, because I didn't know any of the rules back then. And I think even some of the music I used, I didn't get correctly. I mean, all of it is not for public use. Juan said he had to bring up the pots and pans, or the Dutch oven and the pots and pans. Mountains of Northwest Georgia has lots of Bigfoot activity. My buddy Matthew Delf goes researching near Blue Ridge Camp. What is he researching in the Blue Ridge? Hey, Gwen, good to see you. Mark says, Gwen. Gwen says, hey, y'all. You tell Gwen we said, howdy. Good to see you. What is Matthew Delf researching in the Blue Ridge in Canton, Georgia? Very different. I know those are all called the Blue Ridge, the eastern wall of the Appalachian Mountains. It's called Blue Ridge, but very different around the Unicoi into Georgia than, let's say, here in Virginia or on the Blue Ridge Parkway around Pisgah National Forest and all that area. Pisgah. I'm always saying that wrong. Adventures of Moonman says, yes, they have a Bigfoot museum in Cherry Log. I've been there once. Never been to the Bigfoot Museum in Cherry Log. When Carol and I don't know if you caught this, if you guys haven't watched it, it's doing okay. It's got like 800 views on it right now. The snowshoe video I put out right before we went on Christmas hiatus. That's what I'm going to call it, Christmas hiatus, our recess, if you will. Right before then, we put out a video about snowshoe, West Virginia. We froze to death. We had a great time. Carol and I had a blast. One of our favorite trips of 2020. We just had a great time. Very cozy, very cold. Coldest I think we've ever been since moving from Tennessee. It was very cold, but we loved it up there. But one of the things that I remember, I just got the biggest kick out of it, but I couldn't make as big of a deal as I wanted to, was a Bigfoot statue. We run into Bigfoot statues everywhere. It's just hysterical. Harold Denton says the latest episode of Expedition Bigfoot last week was taking place. Oh, now I'm putting it all together, Harold. I'm sorry. In other words, he was doing Bigfoot research in the Blue Ridge. I'm sorry. I was thinking he was up there doing soil samples. Like going through rocks or something. I had him as a geologist for some reason. Is Big Feet in Virginia?
It's Big Feet.
Oh,
it's
it's
Big
my
Feet.
eyes. I need my glasses on. It says, is
It's Big Feet instead of Bigfoot.
Big Feet in Virginia. Here's the funny part. If Bigfoot, if of all the places, there's like 3 places where I've been in the woods, where Carolyn and I have been out, running around in our fun-loving video days. There's been 3 or 4 places where I've said, if there's a Bigfoot, he's got to be near here. It's not just, it's also the feeling of how remote you are. Some of that plays into it, and just how easy it would be to hide. One of those places is near Reliance, Tennessee, that part of the Unicoi Mountains, right there at Lost Creek area. If you've ever been there, know where I'm talking about. Big Frog probably knows exactly where I'm talking about, because it's the back part of Big Frog Mountain. That area is remote, and very remote. People don't realize how remote that is most of the year. Star Mountain, sometimes you got a lot of locals there. A lot of locals, though. The other place is anywhere West Virginia. Anywhere when you cross the Shenandoah Mountain on 33, right when you pass 238 and on, you could probably see Bigfoot at the Hardys there at the bottom of the mountain. I'm just saying. West Virginia has got its own thing. There are places in Virginia, but there are a couple of places in Virginia that I haven't made a whole lot of videos about that sometimes make me think this is pretty. But the Blue Ridge Parkway throughout Virginia is not that remote. And on the western wall, or the Alleghenies, that Virginia kind of straddles and shares with West Virginia, the Virginia side's not that remote at all. It's you're sliding down the hill right into a town normally. I hope all that made sense. Matthew told me that he received a report of Bigfoot road crossing in the Pine Mountain area last year. Interesting. Now, from what Matt Sieber was telling me, is that we're coming off of a 4-year hiatus where Bigfoot sightings were down. Bet you didn't know that. Bigfoot sightings were down. And all of a sudden, Bigfoot sightings are on the rise. That and UFO sightings. And social media. Is there a connection? Who knows? O'Brien says, embarrassing. They're always doing it embarrassing. Billy says, I love Harlan County. Harlan County, Kentucky, or Virginia? Where are we talking about there, Billy? Because if you say Pine Mountain and Harlan County, that makes a lot of sense. And the Pine Mountain, Harlan County, because I thought we were in Georgia. Did we go to Kentucky? I must have missed something in the notes there. Matthew has met Igor, the Russian Bigfoot researcher. They meet at Clanton, Georgia. Bigfoot conference a couple years back. They went out looking for Bigfoot, researching that weekend. That's what the kids are calling it now. Hey, Mom, we're going out Bigfoot looking this weekend. I'm just kidding. It'd be funny. It's something that me and my buddies would have come up with when I was young. He has 2 of them foots, Mark says. Adventures of Moon Man says, I heard what sounds like a gorilla, wow, screaming in the woods behind my house about 5 or 6 months ago. I chalked it up. I'm sure you're saying chalked it up as a Sasquatch or a Squatch. You have to know Bigfoot lingo. I used to know it. I used to have a ledger. I'm just kidding. Yeah, there are things in the woods that make unfamiliar noises. And I'm not, especially on our channel where we do get a lot of people who are very familiar with being outdoors. They're familiar with being in the woods, being in the country. They're used to being around animals. So I cannot discredit anybody's story when they say I heard something like this and they've never heard that in the woods before. I'd never heard a bobcat in my life. Great example. But I'd heard stories about bobcats my whole life. So Carol and I are camping out with the kids one night at Chilhowie up in Tennessee. It's off season. It's spring. So nobody's up there except the church people. It's pouring the rain that night. It's like it's a church conference, not a conference, but a camp thing. Get together, And Dummy here planned it before the on season. So it was cold and rainy that night. And that next day it wasn't much better. And so for some odd reason, we picked on a bobcat. A bobcat, apparently we were under its marked tree. I'm not sure. But the thing was screaming all night. And it's the scariest sounding thing in the world. It's the first time I'd ever heard a bobcat in the wild. But I'd been told so much about hearing a bobcat. I knew exactly what it was. That's a bobcat. Actually, I thought it was somebody pranking us, but it turned out to really be a bobcat. There are sounds you hear. A screech owl is another one that if you've never heard one, it'll scare you to death. But a lot of people that watch our channel and our videos, they know their way around the woods. They know what makes certain sounds, and they're like, I know what sound such and such makes. That is not that sound. Remote hillside. Harold Denton says it's a remote hillside, sparsely populated. Harlan, Kentucky. Okay, now we got Harlan, Kentucky. I know Harlan, Kentucky very well. Lots of vacant mine shafts in Pine Mountain area. Good hiding spots, big hairy creatures to live. Let me add to that, Harold. Pine Mountain is a long mountain chain. People don't realize this. When they think Pine Mountain, they think it's just Harlan County. And no, it goes all the way. That ridgeline goes all the way to Jellicoe. Jellicoe Mountain is technically an extension of Pine Mountain. It's not just that one wilderness. When you talk about wilderness areas, that Harlan County, Pine Mountain, that whole connection and all the ridge lines that connect to it, a very vast wilderness area. And now that mining has kind of gone way down, those areas are being converted to some amazing places to run around and maybe Bigfoot. I don't know. I know that used to, back when my grandparents were coming up in Knox County, Kentucky. There were bear common, and bear have now returned. In other words, now that they quit hunting a few years and mining went way down in that area, in Knox County and in Harlan County, that whole area, bear have come back. Now, I can't remember I think it's Clay County where they've added the elk, and now elk have made a huge comeback in one part there of southeastern Kentucky, but that's not Harlan, I don't think. I love southeast Kentucky. Love it. Looking through here, Ventures and Movement says, I'm telling you, Bill, when I had my encounter, I couldn't believe it. I still can barely believe it. There isn't a single day when I don't think about it. We need to do a reenactment. Let's talk about that, man. I'm dead serious. Let's do it. We'll do a reenactment. We'll make a video. It'll be fun. People will love it. We'll take it seriously, though. We'll take it seriously. It'll be a lot of fun. I think it's better if you don't even show the monster, though. You don't show Bigfoot. You know, Bigfoot's just out there. You don't get to see him. Yeah. Pine Mountain Ridgeline is a huge area. Go watch this past Sunday's episode of Expedition Bigfoot. They were using stone imaging technology to cover that Pine Mountain area. Ooh. See, Carolyn, I'm fighting to get a nice camera, and these people have, what did he call it? Stone imaging technology. We've got to advance here. I'm telling you. We're not going to advance as long as we're getting stuck home. Again, we were supposed to be in Pennsylvania this week. My apologies. How much fun is this? A nice, polite, clean conversation. It's not been for everybody. Some people have bowed out early. That's fine. Some people stick around. They want to talk Bigfoot. We kind of got off the subject of social media. Mama says, I'm furry enough to play Bigfoot. Me and you both. I'm telling you what. Me and you both. But here's the funny thing about, there's so many things that I've learned because of social media. There's so many interactions that I've had with great people who I enjoy talking to. I enjoy their stories. And they obviously enjoy something about what Carol and I are doing on here, or they wouldn't be here. And it's a pleasure to be able to do this. And so what would I miss about social media? Well, it's kind of like what some of you guys said. I would miss you. I would miss interacting with you. I would miss your stories, what you have to say, your crazy comments, Dutch oven, Opryland, and certain things that maybe if you're new to the channel, you don't actually get right away, but eventually you're a part of it anyway, or you start your own thing. And it's awesome that no matter how many subscribers we get, it's great to have people in this little corner that we have just to talk about stuff that we talk about. And not take ourselves too seriously in this crazy, crazy world. What if it's like this? What if social media really depends on your social circle? Yeah, what a concept. In other words, social media comes down to, who do you surround yourself with? What are the voices you want to listen to? Personally, I like to be around positive people. I like to be around people who see the glass half full as opposed to seeing it half empty. I like going hiking and being with people who are still dreaming the impossible dream. And that's why I love this channel, and that's why I love hanging out with you guys. Billy says, I miss watching YouTube a bit because they have all the Highlander shows. They do. I was scrolling through the other night, and I saw the Highlander, and I went, there can be only one. This is the greatest show. Mark says, this is a family, a touchstone. I agree. Dennis Jackson says, we just came through the snow yesterday, coming home through Roanoke. It didn't quit until we got to Tennessee. Yeah, that's funny is it didn't snow up here, like in this part.
Crystal had snow.
But Crystal had snow there at ETSU, Dennis. It's really funny. We're supposed to get snow. I'll put it to you this way. 2 or 3 inches of snow here is not that big of a deal. It's like people just go on about their business. It's those, and this has happened to us twice up here, where they didn't predict it till like the day of, and then it snows 7 inches. That happens here, where it's like, oh, we weren't planning on this. It happened this year, right before Christmas. Leah Golston says, y'all good people. We miss your classes. Leah, I miss you being in class. I hope you and Michael are doing well, and hope I'm trying to find, Leah, you posted the other night an app. I'm not even going to get into the app. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do that. You know what I'm talking about, Leah. So I go to Facebook, I click the button, made my profile for this new app, all excited. Now I can't access it. So I just wanted to tell you, I did click on the link you provided, but can't access it anymore. So there went that idea. Adventures of Moon Man, 2 to 3 inches of snow shut school down for days where I'm at. A lot. Well, around here, that has a lot to do with the inclination too, doesn't it? I mean, around here, I thought we wouldn't close school as much as we do, but everywhere you go here, you're going up a mountain. So yeah, it happens. They don't plow our road until like 3 or 4 days after the snow. Don't know why. It's just how it is. Billy says, 40 minutes past my bedtime. Billy, I can't believe you stayed up this late as it is. Poor Chief is passed out. Y'all have a good night. Tell Chief we said good night. Chief is his big old German Shepherd. Brengie said, just a threat of 2 or 3 inches of snow closes our school before it even gets here in South Carolina. Oh, South Carolina. Like I said, my memories of South Carolina, Myrtle Beach and the snow. Myrtle Beach and the snow. We had a snow in Batesburg, South Carolina when I was 5 years old. I'll never forget it. Leah says, the hiking day we had a long time ago was awesome. Was it not? You may not know this, A Nose for Life crew, but we used to do more activities together. We haven't been able to do that since we've lived here in Virginia, but we did some activities. We did the eclipse together, which was great. You can check that video out. But we also went hiking together. That was so fun. It was good times. Good times. So, in conclusion to this business meeting, here's what I say. I think social media, again, it might be that we are on the last 10 years of social media, if you will. I don't know what is going to get removed and deplatformed next. But here's what I have to say about the whole thing. I think social media is really depends on who you surround yourself with and the positive people, positive influences in your life. When times are bad and things go negative, I like to look up as opposed to looking down at my feet and being sad. I like to be around people who are up and want to see the best of things, because it's easy for me to get down. I mean, anybody that has a talkative kind of personality, know this for people in your life. People that like to talk a lot, talk real fast, and they get really into stuff. Normally they're a roller coaster emotionally. Carol will tell you that's me. I have to fight that. That's kind of how I'm wired. I have to fight that a lot. But one of the best ways for me to fight it is just to always surround myself with people who are positive. Adventures of Moon Man says, all right, it's time for a shout for me. Hope you all have had a great night, and thanks for the stream. Listen, it's my pleasure. I'm sorry I can't bring you guys a normal video. We're closing down here as well. And I want to tell you guys something. Just so great to touch base with you yet again. And we love you, and we hope, to goodness, we can get back to making our normal videos soon. And you guys be very blessed. Hold on. Leaving Johnson City, headed east, I-26 towards Flag Pond exit. 1,600 feet, jump up to 3,000 feet at Flagpole. I know exactly where you're talking about. Carol and I were there this past fall. Brand, we love you guys too. You guys have a great night.